Hi, welcome to Off Script. I'm Zach Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Draper.
Today on the show, we're taking a look at David Gordon Greene's Halloween Ends. It's the last Halloween movie, Andy. They swear this time.
Yeah, for real.
For
Never
real.
again. There's no way they're
Never
ever
again.
going to resurrect this property.
Evil dies tonight. Yes, we're also taking a look at Blonde on Netflix, the Marilyn Monroe biopic. It came out a few weeks ago, but we missed it for other stuff. Now we finally have the opportunity to sit down and watch it. We're going to tell you what we think. We're going to take a look at some comments regarding Halloween Ends' box office performance, Halloween Ends box office performance from the director of Freaky, Christopher Landon. He didn't think it did that well, and he's got something to say about day-and-date releases for theatrical and digital movies coming out same day. And before we get to all that, we need to talk about the news. Our first story this week, Netflix is adding an ad-supported tier. I don't believe it. This is something we talked about on the show for a while. Netflix has historically never had ads before. And now, for one low monthly price, you're going to be able to watch Netflix with ads. Andy, how cheap can people get it?
Starting at the low price of $6.99 a month on November 3rd. Like Zach said, Netflix will be rolling out its ad tier thing. It's ad tier, which has been talked about for a while as subscriber growth has slowed, especially in North America. Just some highlights of what's going to be happening. Like I said, November 3rd, there's going to be an average of 4 to 5 minutes of commercials per hour. Not all at once, kind of spread it throughout. You will not be able to download movies or series if you're on this tier, and not all content is available, which is really annoying. That's actually what kept me from doing some of these ad tiers on other services, because the thing I wanted to watch was behind the premium tier. And the big one is that it's going to be in 720p, glorious 720p.
Glorious.
The ad tier one. So there, I guess if you're watching on a phone, it might be okay, but that's really pretty low quality in 2022.
First off, I get why the headlines are opening with the price, right? Netflix is going to be available as low as $6.99. I can already see the Netflix banners, right? Netflix can start today, starting as low as $6.99, right? That'll be their base tier, their new price they offer everybody. They will tout that as we are affordable to everybody, which is fine. Like, I agree. One of the nice things about an ad-supported tier is you can get on it super cheap. And for me, who doesn't want to watch a lot of Netflix content anymore, that might be worth me chasing down. Like, that's not necessarily a bad thing if you're cool with the ads. The thing I'm surprised is not making a bigger deal is the 720p. Like, that's hard to believe. You're not getting anything in HD anymore. Like, good Lord. That's not good. That's really bad.
Yeah, that's something that I would probably go for this, because I don't watch a lot of Netflix. I just usually a couple of things a month. And that's actually really pretty attractive for the lower price, but not for 720p. Like, that's even for phone, that's too low. And if you have a big TV, that's gonna be pretty bad. It's gonna be so kind of pixelated and just not look good. I would definitely go for it if it was still going to be at the normal resolution, but not at that.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning as well. It says here that their basic plan without advertising, it's $9.99 per month, $9.99 per month, $10, also has 720p resolution. I didn't know that. I don't know if that's a new thing starting November when this rolls out. This will be coming to the United States November 10th. It'll be hitting some other countries a few days before us. Andy, what are the odds you switch to ad-supported Netflix? Are you going to tell anybody about this? Do you think this is going to? I mean, how do you think it's going to do?
I mean, I think that the lower price point is definitely going to get some people, and I think some people might, that don't care about resolution might go for it. And again, I think that if you're watching on a tablet or a phone, it's probably fine. That the lower screen resolution is going to be okay. I'm sure they'll get a bump, and it's always nice to have options. So it'll be interesting to see how much people either switch to it or kind of flock to it.
I'll be interested to see like exactly how ads roll out on the platform. Will it be like YouTube where you can watch 5 seconds and then skip it, or do you have to watch the whole thing? One thing Netflix is really good at is catering content to you based on your previous watch history, things you've been interested in on the platform. I wonder if they'll angle advertising towards that at all, or if it'll just be like ads for, Tide Pods and I don't know. I don't know. I guess I want to know what they'll be advertising on Netflix and what that experience is going to be like. So while I may not jump on it, if you are a user, you should jump on it too. Also, a little bit of news right before the show started. Netflix has added a bunch of subscribers, right? I didn't actually make a banner for this. I'll just whip it open.
Yes, not an hour ago, the Netflix earnings call happened, which was really positive for them. They added 2.4 million subscribers, which was over double than what they had predicted. They had predicted around 1 million, mostly out of Asia. Only 100,000 or so subscribers from the North America area. So Netflix doing much better, adding more subscribers which is a good thing. And then they're also going to be cracking down on passwords. So we'll kind of see how that goes as well.
Yeah, I saw something about that password sharing crackdown. In fact, just the other day, they released a new feature for account transfer. If you are one profile on somebody else's like host profile, you can set up a new Netflix account and transfer your profile and your watch history and all your time that you've watched up and everything over to your new paid profile, which is great. Netflix is looking out for you, the soon to be paying consumer. I don't love this. I think one of the assets that Netflix has that people really like is, the ability to share passwords. People like that. There's a reason you have 5 profiles on one account. So Netflix, in an effort to make more money and move forward in the industry, taking away a feature most of its people already like, doesn't seem like a great idea to me, but I get it. You got to make money. I get password sharing is kind of cursory. I hope it doesn't start a trend and other streamers start following, because Netflix, like it or not, does kind of lead a bit of the charge sometimes. They're the first big one. When Netflix makes move, other streamers take notice. Disney Plus will notice what they're doing. Hulu, which is also Disney, HBO. That matters. And I hope they're not setting a precedent for, poor consumerism, because nobody wants that. Least of all us here on Off Script. Any other thoughts on this, Andy, before we move on?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing. So obviously, if you go to the ad tier Netflix is losing money, but they're hoping to make that back through the advertising and kind of have it balance out. I was talking to a friend of mine who works in advertising, and they said apparently these Netflix advertising packages are pretty expensive and not really great from the advertising point, but because it's a new market, people are just advertisers are just sort of paying it, and got to see what happens. It's all brand new.
Right. Like, I can't imagine they'll be advertising anything local to you. It'll all be national brands, right? It'll be Clorox and I don't know what else, but that's great, right? Great, good for Netflix. They'll figure it out. Hopefully they see a bump. Hopefully they move forward. They did mention that something that's been helping them recently is some of their content, like Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, which is doing great for them. Stranger Things season 4, The Gray Man, which we reviewed here on this show. Keep it on Off Script for more news from Netflix. Like it or not, they are an influence in the film industry, and that's exactly what we do here on this show. And speaking of the film industry, DC's making moves, which is weird. I wasn't expecting this. In anticipation of the upcoming Black Adam release, DC has been signing deals and shaking hands with all kinds of talent in the industry, mostly people they've worked with before. Andy, you want to dig into this a little bit? Do you have time to read it? I can talk about it a little bit.
No, I've read this one. Yes, with the imminent release of Black Adam in just a couple of days, we've gotten some news on the DC front. This is going to be Walter Hamada's kind of final film. He was head of DC Films and will be stepping down after Black Adam. He almost stepped down before, but he agreed to stay on. And so there's talk of what is happening now. What's DC doing? We know a little bit from this article. James Gunn is going to be involved in some new projects, a standalone film, possibly another series, and he's currently working on Peacemaker 2, the second season of Peacemaker. The bigger story here is that they are really looking to bring Superman back into the fold, specifically Henry Cavill's Superman, which he had his solo film that kicked off this whole thing back in 2013. It's been quite a while. We never really got a proper sequel. But apparently Dwayne Johnson, star of Black Adam, is really big on getting Superman back in the fold. I feel like he's kind of half spoiled the movie talking about this. And there was also just some what this means is that the other Superman property that was kind of in the works by Ta-Nehisi Coates, which was going to feature a black Superman. I have a feeling that's probably not going to happen, and we're going to have Henry Cavill back in the suit.
I think people are hopeful for that. I am. I like Henry Cavill. I wish he had gotten more work as Superman. That being said, we reported that Ta-Nehisi Coates' Black Superman script like early, way like a couple years ago. You and I were talking about that on this show, and I was like, dude, this is exciting. Like this is a good direction. This is a way forward. This is something new. But DC's been seeing a really big boon lately between press for Ezra Miller on The Flash and The Rock pushing Black Adam like it is the hottest property ever to exist. Will change cinema, somebody said. DC's got a lot going on for them. Obviously, they've had some success with Peacemaker over on HBO Max with James Gunn. And it sounds like he is interested in doing more with them, which is good stuff. And additionally, I'm curious to see what they do with Matt Reeves' Batman. I heard something about a rogues gallery of villain properties they'd like to produce. Big potential for Clayface. I thought Clayface might have been the twist at the end of the Batman, but here's hoping.
Yeah, I had heard some of that too, that Matt Reeves is really interested in possibly a very grounded Mr. Freeze story, which would be really good. Mr. Freeze has a kind of a tragic background story. If you're not familiar, there's a classic Batman the animated series episode on it, but he would be a great character. And some of the others that maybe aren't big enough for their own film but would be good on a, if you did several, like Clayface, Professor Pig I saw mentioned in there, Killer Croc maybe. So there's just lots of potential and production kind of happening at DC right now.
Yeah, for sure. That reminds me, a couple other bits before I move on to our last story. I did hear from an interview with Colin Farrell, who played the Penguin in the Batman most recently. He is going to be in the new HBO show based on the Penguin in the Batman, and he said that show is taking place just like days or weeks after the events of the Batman, which is kind of neat. He said Gotham's still underwater, and I was like, ooh.
Oh, wow.
That's interesting. It's not like a year or like all a prequel. He's like, no, yeah, this is like following up pretty quickly after what happens in that movie, which is cool. And additionally, one more thing about Dwayne Johnson, because I do want to talk about this. Dude, he said Henry Cavill's name in his red carpet premiere like 12 times. He kept saying Superman, and I was like, stop. Like, I feel like, yeah, it seems like all but an assurance that he is going to be in this movie. Even
like he's
the
ruined
ruined
the cameo. It.
Yeah. So like, I don't know if he is or not, but I don't know. I'm hopeful either way. I think Cavill coming back as Superman would be, it could be good for the character who we haven't seen in a while, right? That would reassure people. And in a way, that's exactly what Superman should be, a hero in dark times. So hopefully he's a hero, whether or not he appears in Black Adam. We'll see. Any other thoughts on this one, Andy?
I'm ready to go.
Our last story at the box office. Halloween Ends opens to a so-so $40 million. 41 million, actually, the lowest of the trilogy. I don't think I'm that surprised by this, despite the current like boon in horror films, which is huge in the industry. It's the third, right? It's actually like the 11th Halloween movie, if you really want to count, but like it's the third in the trilogy. Not everybody saw the last one. What do you think of this, Andy?
It's not surprising, actually, having seen the movie, which we'll talk about in a bit, because the Thursday night previews were actually pretty strong. It looked like it was on track for maybe $55 million opening. And it's kind of fallen pretty short of that, almost half as much as the first Halloween 2018, I believe, doing those kinds of numbers, but even lower than last year's Halloween Kills, which was I think around 50 million or so. And that one opened day and date, also on Peacock Plus or with that streaming service. So we're starting to see diminishing returns on this franchise for sure.
Additionally, Halloween Ends did not have the brightest reviews. It had, at least at the time when we went and saw it, a 47% on Rotten Tomatoes and had a C+ cinema score, which is not outstanding. Halloween Kills, meanwhile, had a B-, so it's not much better, but there's seemingly a generally agreed upon dip in quality. But It's worth mentioning, as I've said before in the show, when a film is close to 50% on Rotten, that does not mean it is only half a good movie. That means it's divisive. People either like it or they don't. And I thought going into Halloween Kills or Halloween Ends, that maybe, there's a little something there. It turns out I think there is. We'll talk about it a little bit more in just a minute. But Andy, you make a good point. Like the day and date ultimately, like, does affect this undeniably. And I guess we'll talk about that more between our reviews here in a minute, because Christopher Landon, director of Freaky, has got hot takes about that and whether that's a good thing or bad thing in the industry. Otherwise, I think people were hoping it was going to be getting numbers like Smile got, which was a breakaway for horror films right now. It made like $120 million or something on like a shoestring budget.
Yeah, that was an $18 million movie making over $100 million. Like that's massive. And which is really funny in contrast to something like Amsterdam, which was for no reason an $80 billion movie and is going to lose like $100 million because it's earned like 10.
I should have sent it to you. I saw a great version of that meme. Like it's two characters from Dragon Ball Z, and they're like, "Let's go fight somewhere where nobody's around," and then they're like fighting in a theater with Amsterdam playing on the screen.
Perfect.
It's perfect. Yeah, Amsterdam we reviewed last week on the show. Go back and check out episode 192 if you want to hear that. I think with that we should probably jump into Halloween Ends. I'm going to be taking the summary on this one before I jump into it. Halloween Ends is, as I just said, the third in the trilogy from David Gordon Greene and writer Danny McBride, the comedian Danny McBride, who you know from such HBO shows as Eastbound and Down and The Righteous Gemstones. The two of them took a spin on John Carpenter's Halloween, following Rob Zombie's reboot of the movies with Halloween 1 and 2 in the mid-2000s. Now we are getting to the end of this new Halloween trilogy with Michael Myers and Laurie Strode, with Jamie Lee Curtis reprising her role. But this movie was, like I said, a little divisive. Came out and it was a little different, and people weren't sure where it was going to go. So Andy and I bravely went in. Andy infamously did not read anything about this. I could not get off Twitter reading about it. I was really curious, like why people were really split on this. I saw a bunch of memes, and ultimately I don't think much of it spoiled my experience, but I do want to talk about it. The movie is Halloween Ends. So Halloween Ends is the story of Laurie Strode 4 years after the events of Halloween Kills, which is weird because Halloween and Halloween Kills are the same night. They take place right next to each other. And it feels like Halloween Kills ends with the feeling that we will just pick right up on the same Halloween in 2019, but not so. 4 years later, Laurie Strode has moved on. She's writing a memoir. She's living with her daughter or granddaughter, Allison. Michael Myers has not been seen since Halloween 2019, that fateful night. And things are pretty fine in Haddonfield, Illinois. Like, actually, Laurie's being kind of a whole character now, and she's not just like this crazy survivor from The Walking Dead kind of person who's armed to the teeth and ready for vengeance. She's grown as a person, and she's writing this memoir and reflecting on her time. And that's when, one fateful night, a young babysitter is accused of a horrific crime, and suddenly the evils and the plights of Haddonfield turn on this person, and it's up to Laurie to finally face this evil that might be bigger than herself. That I think is probably the best way to summarize this movie without giving a lot away. Andy, I was stunned how much of this movie isn't in the trailers. There's a whole
definitely something we need to talk about.
The whole plot line that is not at all in the trailers for this movie. And the trailers, in fact, make it look a lot like Halloween Kills. Going to be the big face-off between Michael and Laurie, right? You got some shots of Michael Myers with the messed up mask after he got burned in Halloween Kills, and Laurie's like, "Come and get it," right? It just looks more like that. And I think that might have hurt it. But what they did here is different, for better or worse. So let's jump into talking about it. Andy, what did you think of Halloween Kills? Halloween Ends. God, Halloween Ends. What did you think of Halloween Ends? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There are some good ideas in this. There are some interesting things, some that work better than others. I think the biggest issue is that this feels like like it belongs in a different trilogy of movies, or just kind of on its own. It feels like we're almost starting again from the beginning. It does. The first two films happen the same night. You think the third one is going to pick up where that one's, and going to be a big showdown. But yeah, there's lots of decisions that are like, we're 4 years later, not the same night. Laurie Strode isn't really the main character. Michael Myers isn't really the main character. And I do think this is one of the things we should get into, is the plot is very different from pretty much any other Halloween movie that you may have seen, where we're introduced to a character named Corey who has an accident at the beginning of the film and then turns into the town recluse. He's shunned, he's bullied, he's kind of turned into a monster by the town, which I think is supposed to be some sort of weird social commentary, and kind of, walks in the footsteps of Michael Myers. But it's a very bizarre, like, you have this character that we have not seen in two films, all of a sudden is kind of the main character of this movie. And it doesn't show you that in the trailers. And
Not at all.
Like, I saw a great Twitter thing that was like, Michael Myers had a great cameo in his own film. So the thing is, that plot is interesting on its own. It does, but it totally does not work in the context of the other two films. This person Corey also becomes weirdly romantically involved with Laurie Strode's granddaughter, Allison, and they almost have this rom-com thing going on at the beginning. I mean, it's just bizarre in terms of the two films that came before it. On its own, it kind of works.
Yeah, so Halloween Ends does this funny tightrope walk where it's trying to, I think, live up to spiritually what the original films were doing, but also like wrap those up in a way that's more satisfying than the previous wrap ups we've had with like Halloween H2O in 2000, where there was already a movie where Laurie Strode and Michael Myers had their big face off. This already happened. Like, we're doing it again, except from a different angle now, and saying, no, just imagine those movies didn't happen. And the thing Halloween Ends, I think, is trying to do well is imitate the spirit of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, which was a Halloween movie completely devoid of Michael Myers. The only one. Michael Myers is not in at all. That is a movie about this company that produces these killer masks. When you wear them, they hypnotize you and melt your face, or I don't even really remember, Silver Shamrock. And that movie was the movie John Carpenter, the original creator of Halloween, wanted to make, because that's what he wanted Halloween to be, an anthology series. Each movie was going to be a different spin on a different Halloween night where something's happening. But when Halloween came out, it was so universally acclaimed that the studio begged him to make a second one that was a follow-up. They make Halloween 2, The Return of Michael Myers, and he does this thing, and then they make Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, and it is universally panned. Everybody's like, this movie's terrible because there's no Michael Myers and this isn't what we wanted. Over time, people have come around on Halloween 3 Season of the Witch as its own horror movie, as its own thing, and people are like, actually, it's pretty good. But as a Halloween movie, it doesn't really stick the landing because it lacks a lot of like the thematic ties that would make it fit in the universe of Halloween. And this one kind of does the same thing in that way. Like, I have to give David Gordon Greene credit. Like, he did kind of echo that original 3-film structure for lack of a structure. And that brings all of its problems. People didn't like Halloween 3 Season of the Witch because it didn't feel like it fit. And I think people don't like this movie because it doesn't feel like it fits. In fact, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch did not have to put in Michael Myers and talk about him and wrap up his story and give us a satisfying bow with Laurie Strode. This movie has to be its own thing and also carry that weight. But put Michael Myers in the spotlight as well, because he's the guy on the poster that sells tickets, and Jamie Lee Curtis is on your press tour, so people got to know she's in it. And somehow you end up with this like advertising campaign where you've completely ignored the actual plot of the movie and the actual characters in lieu of like the framing device of Michael and Laurie and their final face off. And like, that's misleading. And I think that leads to people not liking what's happening. But that being said, we do need to talk about the actual plot and what happens in it, because I don't think it's all that bad.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting because it would work on its own, and it would work if this weren't a Michael Myers film. If it was this story about a man shunned by society, it's a bit like Joker, shunned and mistreated by society that turns him into this killer. That's an interesting bit of horror you could do and social commentary. It just doesn't really make sense in this movie. One take that I saw that I thought was really interesting is like this trilogy feels like it's backwards. Like the third movie feels like it should be where we start with Laurie trying to move on, trying to live a normal life, and she can't because Michael comes back. And then in what would be the end of the film, she turns into like Linda Hamilton in Terminator 2, lock, stocks, two smoking barrels, and finishes him off. But again, it's all kind of happening what feels like in reverse. We're missing this badass character who's trained all her life for this confrontation that we're introduced to in the first film, and she's just trying to act like none of it happened. And she's also hardly in the film.
Yeah, no, you're right. I hadn't heard that read, but you're totally on the ball. I think this would have been better as Halloween, and then Halloween Kills could have been what happens in the events of Halloween, and Halloween Ends could have been the events of Halloween Kills, and I think that would have been a tighter, more put together trilogy. This one does, to me, undeniably feel like they did not write this in advance. There was no forethought when they made the original Halloween that there was going to be a trilogy. Maybe somebody had like an inkling, but had no idea where things were going to go. I think they played all their Michael Myers chips in Halloween Kills, which is good, by the way. It's not bad. It's a fine movie. But then in this one, they were like, we have to do something different. We have to run in a different direction. We can't just do the same thing again. What are we going to do? How are we going to wrap this all up? And they decided to make it more about a story of like Haddonfield shared trauma about like Michael Myers, which the other two films kind of did too, especially Halloween Kills. Halloween Kills gets a lot into
Evil
like,
dies tonight.
Evil dies tonight. Yeah, like that's definitely a thing. But this one, they have to like bring it back around and make it this kind of wraparound story. Built on the back of this babysitter character played by Rowan Campbell, who previously has done some TV. It was in a Hardy Boys series. He was in Virgin River on Netflix. Nothing too exciting. He's up and coming, and he's fine in this movie, by the way. It puts a lot of weight on the wrong character, and it leaves Michael Myers and Laurie Strode like kind of out in the cold. And then when you do get to their kind of big, finale, like it's like, I don't know. It's like second chunk of the third act stuff. You're like, all right, like you kind of don't care at that point. The movie's almost over. You're checking your watch. Your popcorn's empty. You're ready for a refill. You need to go to the bathroom. So, like, I don't know. Like, let's get into it because there are things that I do like about this movie outside of just talking about like the framing of it. Let's jump into the plot. So like we said, the film opens with a babysitter meeting this young boy in the family, and you're going to be watching him tonight. And along the way, something terrible happens, which immediately launches us into Halloween. And we come back out of our title sequence with Laurie Strode, and she is a totally changed woman. Completely different character, like than Halloween Kills and Halloween Kills, and it's been 4 years, which is also a huge jump. Like there was nothing in the previous films to indicate this was happening. They did not tell anybody it was going to be a 4-year jump, so this is a surprise. And Laurie is a totally different person. She's living with her granddaughter from the previous film. They got this nice house in Haddonfield. They still live there. Why would they move?
Why would they move? Yeah.
Why would they move? And she's writing her memoir, and she doesn't have any guns, and she doesn't have any knives. And she's like, I've moved on, even though Michael basically got away at the end of the last movie. It's fine. I'm just going to learn to live with love in my heart. And meanwhile, like the town of Haddonfield has kind of rallied up right against this babysitter. Who was a kid who basically he didn't get away with what happened, but after a few years has kind of gotten out on good behavior and is just trying to live his life and get his life started and like find a college to go to or whatever. And nobody likes him. He's a town freak. And Laurie Strode, meanwhile, is also kind of the town freak, right? The victim of the Michael Myers stuff. The whole Michael Myers saga brought all this evil to Haddonfield, right? People blame her for it. So the two of them like find each other, and they actually have a bit of a kinship. And that's when Laurie's granddaughter, Allison, who was in the previous two films, meets this young boy, and they start to fancy one another, which is a bit of a surprise. You don't expect like a romance with this new character who the film opens with. Like, it's kind of surprising, right? It puts Laurie and Allison on the back burner for this other new individual.
Yeah, this is one of the things that kind of comes out of nowhere as their meet cute, which is completely It's not realistic. It's not convincing. That's what the word I'm looking for. They meet in about 2 seconds while he's at the ER, and she's like his attending nurse or whatever, and they like instantly fall in love, and they're like, "Oh my god, I have to be with you all the time. Let's leave Haddonfield together." But we can't because of our terrible past. Because he tries to do normal things with her, but he's being shunned by the entire town. He kind of can't really go anywhere without people bringing up like this kind of terrible thing that he was a part of. And so we get this just a weird love story out of nowhere that's not super convincing.
Yeah, and regarding super convincing, like I think the cast is all right with who we've got here. Jamie Lee Curtis is good. Andy Matichak returns as Allison from the previous films. Rowan Campbell is the new kid, Corey. You got a couple other people. A couple of the officers are back, right? That one older guy who Laurie was kind of into, he's back. The guy who plays the Shape, James. Yes, the guy who plays the Shape, James Dew Courtney's back, and that's fine. My God, though, the script in the opening act of this movie is so bad. It's so bad. I was so bored for like an hour.
Yeah,
like just waiting to see like where is this going. And you do have that sense of like mystery, like what am I watching? Where is this going? How is this supposed to end up at Michael Myers? And you do get this feeling of kind of evil over the town, especially with this kid who has this tragedy. But like the first 45 minutes are like a slog. Like it's, oh my God.
Michael Myers does not show up until like 45-50 minutes, and he doesn't do much when you do finally see. I mean, he's hardly in his own movie.
Yeah,
same thing with Laurie Strode. Again, the main character has generally been her or a lot of Michael Myers, and they are both sidelined by the newcomer Rowan Campbell, Corey.
Yes. And the problem is like Laurie, I don't mind so much. Like obviously you pay attention when she's there. But like the second Michael Myers shows up on screen, he is all you care about. He's all you're looking at. He steals every scene he's in. And no whether he's killing somebody or he's standing next to somebody or he's hiding behind a tree, like your eyes are constantly darting in the dark for the mask. Like that's the heat, that's the smoke. Like Halloween Ends brings. That's the thing all these other movies have done, and it's a shame that he gets kind of sidelined at least for a while. Through one series of events or another, Michael Myers is ultimately found to still be in Haddonfield, and that's when we get a really unique relationship between some of our characters and this Myers who has been basically hiding for 4 years. He is old and he is crippled after the events of Halloween Kills. His face mask is half melted and like he's clearly hobbling, like Kent just does not have it together. Like he is falling apart. And in that way,
living in the sewer, eating rats.
Eating sewer, eating rats. Or something. I assumedly rats, right? Yeah. And in that way, like that opens the door for a bit of a transfer, right, between our former antagonist Michael Myers and this evil kind of force around Haddonfield that people have been crying for blood in, and now this kid Corey, who's like this martyr character. Like we start to feel like that the evil of Myers is not just inside of the man, like it is this kind of
it was inside us the whole time.
Right, yeah, like the evil was the friends we made along the way. And I don't think that's bad. Like I don't think that's a bad thing. Like, but it doesn't, it's not quite as fun as watching a bunch of teenagers get murdered, you know what I mean? Like that'll always be the smoke, and Halloween Ends leans away from that. Like they don't spend a lot of time doing that, at least not until we get to actual Halloween night, which thank God it gets there.
Barely
an hour of the movie.
Yeah, no,
finally.
That's one of the issues. Well, one of the things I wanted to say is Michael Myers is very different in this movie than he is in the previous one. In Halloween Kills, he's like supernatural, damn near invincible.
He's peak Myers.
Yeah,
right.
he's getting beat up, he's getting shot, getting stabbed, and nothing can stop him, you know. And there's a great line that Laurie has, like, the more he kills, the more he transcends, which doesn't mean anything, but it sounds cool. But he's
great.
But he's like supernatural basically, and now he's like basically got a cane and is, you know, getting bested by everyone. It's just it's a really bizarre take. And you're right. The other thing is the big part of this movie is Halloween. That's when most of everything is supposed to go down. we don't really get to Halloween until pretty late in the movie. And when we get there, you hardly even know it's Halloween. There's like one scene of kids in the street.
Yeah, I think it's over an hour. Yeah, there's never a single shot of kids trick-or-treating. Ever.
The first two movies,
there's no parents going to a Halloween party. Like,
yeah, the first two movies take place on Halloween night, and this one takes ages to get to Halloween.
It takes ages to get there because it starts this whole thing where it's like the town is healing and Meyers has been gone. And it's like, it's a little bit of that problem Old has, right? Like, I bought a ticket knowing it's Halloween and Meyers is going to kill again. You cannot tell me in the first hour of the movie, oh, I guess problem solved. Like, he's not around anymore. Like, so that's a bit of an issue. Like the pacing suffers. And again, that script is rough, man. The relationship between Allison and Corey is like really ham-fisted. And you think at first these characters are going to be a little bit denser than they are, but they all come off really one note. Like Laurie's really kind of head in the clouds. I've moved on. Allison is like total simple-minded. Oh yeah, let's get away. You know, Corey's like even surprisingly simple, which is a shame. Like it just makes for a dull open. But
yeah, like Michael Myers totally kills. He kills Laurie's daughter in the previous in Halloween Kills. And she's just like, yeah, I mean, that sucks. It sucks that happened, but you know, you got to go on. Like,
yeah, whatever. Yeah, you see a picture of like, what's her name? She's like Laurie Strode's screensaver on her phone. She's her lock screen. Like that's when you see her. Like, oh, there she is. Rip. Yeah, like that's a bummer. I realize we're talking too long about this, so I do need to wrap it up. We do need to actually talk about the horror and the thrills and the chills because they do come, which is good stuff. I'm gonna be honest. I think Halloween Kills handled this a little bit better. There's some good stuff in here for sure. There's one particular scene with Meyers that's real good. He runs somebody through with this big old classic steak knife, and then he kind of leans back and he does this like shiver shudder thing, which is real weird. And then he keeps stabbing him, and I'm like, yeah, like that. I mean, that's good stuff, man. Like if he feels the evil coursing through him, it's good. It doesn't get much better than that though. Like they're fine. It's definitely not as violent as Halloween Kills. Halloween Kills, I think, will undoubtedly be the bloodiest of these three.
Yeah.
But it gets there, which is good. Like, because it needed to. Like, thank God, you do actually get to a point where people are murdering people, and that's a good thing. Leading up to, of course, Laurie Strode and Michael Myers and their big face-off, which is unfortunately, I think a lot of it's in the trailers.
Yeah, so this is another issue is that the way this film ends feels like it could be the end of the second movie. Like you could just tack it on and it would really make more sense, and you wouldn't have a whole, an hour and a half of filler basically before you get to the final confrontation.
Yeah. I don't need my horror movies to have, incredibly elevated scripts. I don't expect everything to be written like an Academy Award winning production. In fact, for a lot of slasher movies, I'm fine with them being cheesy. Like I really am. That's part of what makes slasher movies work, right? It's just teenagers, having fun in the woods, and then somebody evil comes along and cuts them into fillets. But like this one, like feels like it struggles because of the expectation that it is going to be something bigger. And it subverts that with being something smaller. It's a more intimate story. It's kind of not about Laurie and Michael so much. I don't think that's a bad thing, but it leads to being divisive. And I've seen people all over the internet like about this. People will say this is easily the worst one, complete trash. Don't waste your time. I've seen other people be like, this might be one of the best of the entire series. This is top 5 material. I don't. Where do you land, Andy? What do you think?
I haven't seen all of them, and so it's hard for me to say. It's definitely, I think, the bottom of these three that I'm most familiar with. And again, it's not really a good Michael Myers movie. It's a decent horror movie on its own. It just doesn't really fit in with the rest of the franchise.
Yeah, I kind of land in the same boat. Like I felt like Halloween was pretty good, but I wanted more. And then Halloween Kills, I was like, okay, we're getting there. Big ending for 3, baby. I want all the fireworks. Give it to me. Wrong. Yeah, it's a boat show. You've been fooled. Like, and it's a little bit of a bummer, but it's not bad because again, in the same way, like Halloween Ends has the same like intro sequence as Halloween Season of the Witch. Like, it's the same font choice. Like, it is very obviously paying homage to Halloween Season of the Witch, but it also has to try to be a Halloween movie. And I think that's the problem. It's trying to juggle being its own thing and being a Halloween movie. And like, if it had picked one, it would have worked. I mean, when we saw it, Andy said right at the end of the movie, he's like, this could have been any slasher and it would have worked with this whole plot with the babysitter. It could have been a made up slasher. It could have been a Blumhouse picture. This is a Blumhouse picture actually, but like it could have been anything and it would have worked. And alternatively, like with the Meyers plot, like you kind of could have put anything in the B plot and it probably would have worked fine. Like, unfortunately, it doesn't feel like the two have a good marriage, like, of ideas to come together to make something that's like that everybody likes, and that's a problem.
I think we're ready for recommendations.
One more thing, good score.
Yes,
that old
classic
John
Carpenter
turns out again, baby. Yeah, man can't miss. He gets his paychecks for people using Halloween, and he still does the scores, which are all good. So rock solid. Anyway, with that, this review ran way too long. Andy, would you recommend Halloween Ends?
I would recommend it to fans of the franchise. If you're a completionist and you like horror and the Halloween franchise, Michael Myers, all that, definitely check it out. Probably wait for streaming, if you have Peacock, or if you know someone who does, you can borrow a login. Definitely no need to run out and see it in the theater, but definitely for the fans, and save it for streaming.
We should make that a new like bracket in our review status, like save it for streaming, but don't pay for it. Like borrow the password.
Bum a password.
Yeah, bum a login. I'm kind of in the same boat. I unfortunately feel like the best possible way to watch Halloween Ends has already passed us. It was probably opening night, like with a packed theater. That would have been the best way to go, because word's out now that it's different, and different is bad. Like, especially in horror, what do you want? Do you want the same old Michael Myers slasher, or do you want something that's a departure and is doing something different and new? Maybe laying the groundwork for where the series might go after this. What that includes Michael Myers or not, I guess you'll have to watch it and see. Unfortunately, I'm not going to say definitively whether or not this is the end of Halloween Ends, like I think a lot of people are hoping. But I liked it. I think I liked it. And I think if I go back and watch these three again at some point, I may even look back on this one better. I think, yeah, in a decade, people might look back and go, actually, Halloween Ends was doing something kind of cool in the horror space. But for where it's at right now, it's either ahead of its time or it's a total miss. That's Halloween Ends. And with that, we should probably talk about Halloween at the box office. I know we talked about this a little bit in the front, but we heard some recent news from Christopher Landon, director of Freaky. Andy, you mind introing this segment for us?
It's time for the death of cinema.
Perfect.
So we're going to be talking about this article that's titled "Freaky Director Blast Studios Over Day and Date Release Amid Halloween Ends Launch. Quote unquote, it destroyed us."
It destroyed us.
So Christopher Landon last year released a film called Freaky, starring Vince Vaughn. It was a horror comedy, and it was a horror take on the Freaky Friday premise, body swap. And in this one, a cheerleader and a serial killer swap bodies. So the serial killer becomes the cheerleader. Cheerleader's in the grown man's body, played by Vince Vaughn. We reviewed it on the show. It was okay, not a great film. It was not released day and date, but it did go to streaming very quickly. This was when they were kind of renegotiating these release windows, and it went to streaming in like 2 to 3 weeks. Which, because it was bombing at the box office. So it's a strange thing for him to come out and say this is killing us, because this didn't happen to his film, and his film only went to streaming quickly because it was bombing. So that's not to say that this isn't an accurate take. In some ways, I think this is probably did hurt the box office of Halloween Ends. But they're doing this less and less. The day and date releases, HBO or Warner Brothers was the big one to do it. But then they stopped after a year, and Peacock has kind of been the only one still having these day and date releases.
So it's worth talking about on our Death of Cinema segment here, because in Death of Cinema, we talk about what's killing cinema, right? Like what's currently hurting the industry, who's got a hot take, who's got an opinion, who's got a policy that is bad and or at least divisive. And like in the case of Christopher Landon, I kind of get what he's saying. I kind of get it. I kind of understand the idea that like if you're making a feature and you want it to be cinematic, you want people to be seeing it on the silver screen, right? Like big and bold, exactly the way it's intended. Where you can control the aspect ratio and the sound, and people can get their popcorn and see it with their friends. I totally get that. And when it comes to a horror movie, like I also agree that probably the best way to watch a lot of these is like opening night with a theater full of people, right? Who are going to scream and holler and shout at the screen and laugh at the jokes. Like, and you kind of get in on it and you have this group, this collective experience. Like, I think that's really valuable. And you are definitely not getting that at home for sure. But that being said, like, there's a really big argument for content on the internet and like what helps people grow. And gatekeeping things behind a ticket price is not always the best way to do that. There are plenty of things that people have produced over the years that they end up uploading to YouTube for free instead of putting on a paid platform like Patreon because they feel like the best way to grow their brand and get something they work hard on in front of as many eyes as possible is to put it somewhere where everybody can get it, or at least more people can get it. And in the case of Halloween Ends, like I don't think that's a bad thing, especially because of Peacock's subscriber base, which is meager at best. I know 0 people that have Peacock, and of the people I do know, which is none, absolutely none of them would be looking forward to Halloween Ends on Peacock. Like I don't. I mean that's got to be like such a small percentage of the people who saw this movie, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, if you don't want to go to the theater, I mean, this is definitely not a kids movie, so you're not going to be showing it to the family. But maybe if you don't want to go to a theater or you want to have a small, get together, I could see that, you could throw a little like watch party for it. So I could see some people doing it, but it's definitely not a lot.
It's like, it's a weird thing because a lot of directors I feel like will get caught up in, the most ideal version of their film, right? Like they want it to be presented in the best format possible. Some people will try to get their stuff put on the Criterion Collection. George Lucas will never let it go, and they will constantly be reworking their films to make them as pristine as possible well after they've already come out. But like in case of Christopher Landon, like I know that this guy worked hard. Like I know he worked hard to make a movie that he really loved, and a lot of people enjoyed. I don't think anybody really thought Freaky was all that terrible. But like, you don't own your movie, dude. Like the studio that paid $50 million to shoot it owns it. Like, and they'll put it on DVD and they'll put it on Blu-ray and they'll put it on Ultra HD and they'll put it on their streaming service if they want. It frustrates me that he kind of has this attitude like, well, how are they going to use, he says in his tweet here, we're going to use your movie as a guinea pig for our streaming service. It's not your movie. It's their movie. Like they just gave you the money to make it. That's unfortunately like kind of how the movie business works. Scorsese recently had some comments about the box office and studios getting caught up in box office returns. Yeah, dude, movies are cheap.
It's a business, man.
Have you seen how much a freaking light costs lately? Like, do you have any idea how much an IMAX lens costs? It's insane. Like, people can't compete with this. If you're going to be making big features at the cinematic level, unfortunately, you're going to be subject to like what the studio wants more so now than I think ever. And day and date is a reality.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also, I think we do have to find a balance. I think day and date can work, but I think maybe something more along the kind of what Disney Plus was doing, where it was like $20-$30 to rent it the day of. I think that you would get a better return for anyone who wants to watch it at home. You still give people the option, but they absolutely don't have to. But we were, before the pandemic, we had 90-day windows before things were available to rent. And so like we've negotiated that down hugely, and it's much more flexible. We'll see how a picture does. And then if it's doing poorly, we'll throw it on a streaming service to rent first before it's completely watchable. That's usually still like a few months. But that was a step in the right direction, not a step backwards.
No, Landon says in here that the studio should be honoring the sanctity of the theatrical experience.
Oh my
and it's
God.
like, dude, what do you want? Like, I'm sorry, did you want Freaky starring Vince Vaughn in a body swap horror comedy to be in theaters for 3 months? Like, was that really ideal? Should we have had a theater set aside at every cinema in America to say, oh, that's where they're running Freaky for 90 days? Like, it was irrelevant 2 weeks after it came out. We can look at statistics for how viewership drops off. That's part of the reason Smile actually did so good. Word of mouth spread it, and people thought it did better and better, and people got to go see it, and it blew up on TikTok. That happens, right? Alternatively, Halloween Ends did not do that good because after a couple weeks, people are like, this has a terrible cinema score, and it looks like it's not doing good on Rotten. And my friend said it was kind of weird. I'm going to skip it. Like, unfortunately, you have to deal with the reality that people are able to get content faster and more efficiently than ever before. We can't just go to our theaters and see the next big picture anymore. Like, we're going to read about it, we're going to hear about it, we're going to see memes about it. You got like 3 weeks until you're relevant, man. Like, going to streaming is not a bad thing because more people will see your movie there. It is more accessible there. And that's a good thing for you and your brand and your career and your growth. Like, yeah, yes, it kind of hurts the box office. Bummer. But isn't that the studio's problem? Like, you're Christopher Landon. You're the guy who made Freaky. You should be excited more people are seeing your feature.
Yeah, that's always been one of the big things is that, not everyone's access to theaters is the same. If you live in a small town or if you're in kind of a rural area, it can be hard to see anything outside of the big blockbusters at whatever your local cinema is. And streaming has made access to smaller kind of mid-budget films so much easier than it was, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, through the pandemic, people who are immunocompromised weren't going to the theater. They still may not feel safe to go to the theater. And I know that's a really small percentage of people, but it just seems silly to me to have a director come out so vehemently against the idea of their film going to streaming and being in people's hands in their homes, at least digitally, sooner rather than later. Like, that's bananas. Like, I don't, it's just a bad take in my humble opinion. But we did review Freaky on the show. I don't recall what episode we did, but you can scroll back through Spotify and check that out if you like. Any other hot takes on this, Andy, before we move on to Blonde?
Other than this is still an evolving medium, what the balance is between theatrical, streaming, premium video on demand, when people want to go to theaters, when they want to stream, when they are willing to rent, all these things. We're still figuring it out. There's no set model yet. It's still very much in flux.
Yeah, it sure is. And not everybody's right? Like, I'm sure Scorsese would have a very different opinion than me on this, but he's also Scorsese, and this is Christopher Landon. They are two directors who have obviously accomplished much more than me. A little bitty podcaster down here, but we also consume a lot of content, and like I don't think there's anything wrong with being able to get that to people sooner rather than later. Yeah. And with that, we should probably move on to our final review of the episode. Andy has graciously agreed to take the summary on this one. Very excited to talk about it. Andy, please take it away.
Blonde. So this is the long-awaited Marilyn Monroe biopic directed by Andrew Dominik, who is best known for the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford from 2007-8, around there. He also made one of my favorite movies, Killing Them Softly, where Brad Pitt plays a gangster. And this biopic, it's a strange thing. It's not expressly a biopic, but we're gonna get into that. It stars Ana de Armas as Marilyn Monroe, or as she's mostly referred to in this film, Norma Jean. We see her rise into stardom, her tumultuous childhood, her kind of romantic entanglements, and a lot of rough things along the way. This movie has been very, very divisive for a number of reasons we're going to get into. There's a lot of things that work, I think, about this film. There are some nice ideas. There's some parts that are pretty difficult to watch, honestly, and some very kind of questionable choices. Man, there's a lot. I don't want to say too much right now, but that's kind of our setup. It's very different. It's almost told. This is also, by the way, this is based on a book by Joyce Carol Oates. So it's not like a strict kind of classic biopic that we would have of an actor or another kind of famous person. Some interesting things that we're gonna talk about and get into. Zach, what were some of your initial thoughts?
So, Blonde, like Andy said, has had a bit of a tumultuous release. It is the first major NC-17 film since Showgirls, 1995. First NC-17 film we reviewed on this show. So I'm putting that in the check plus column for off-script film review. That's good for us. And Anna de Armas is starring as Marilyn Monroe, like one of the most brightest stars probably ever to come out of human history that we know of. Like a huge personality, a huge person. And it's like 3 hours long, which is intimidating. And then it comes out and people are saying it's like mean. I was interested because people said it was cruel. And I was like, how do you make a movie that's cruel? What does that mean? And then I watched Blonde and I was like, oh, this is something else. You were absolutely right. Blonde is based on a novel from the year 2000 by Joyce Carol Oates, which is a fictionalized account of the life of Marilyn Monroe, loosely based on her biography. Is not actually a biography. I tried to avoid listing this as a biopic in like the off-script banner.
It's biopic adjacent.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like historical fiction. Like,
Yeah.
this is not a good representation of Norma Jean's life. Like, and unfortunately, in leaving out I should say, in highlighting like all of the struggle and tragedy and victimness of her, it leaves out in the cold like any accomplishments or pride or quality that she might have had, and that creates a character who is just constantly under a barrage of criticism and self-doubt that is exhausting to watch in a 3-hour format. Like I had to watch Blonde in parts. I couldn't do it all at once. Did you watch it all together, Andy?
I watched it in parts. I watched the first hour and a half, kind of. I watched the first hour and a half and then took a break and then came back
2 parts.
and
Right.
finished it. It's a lot. What Zach's right. The movie is kind of focuses, for better or worse, for whatever reason, on it's like tragedy after tragedy.
It's
That
brutal.
yeah, that was my description. Was that it's not that it's cruel, it's just brutal. Because once it starts with Norma Jean's tumultuous childhood with her mother, who's very mentally ill, and apparently her father is some estranged Hollywood guy that her mom keeps saying is going to come home one day, and of course he never does. It then jumps to her breaking into the industry, which involves sexual assault, and then goes to abusive relationship after abusive relationship after abusive relationship. And these are all the things that are focused on. We're not really focused on the highlights, the success, the comedy, the singing, the acting. It's none of that. It's about the fame and kind of the price of fame, which I think are some of the interesting ideas, like the idea of how fame affects a real person and how Norma Jean is playing a character called Marilyn Monroe that we all know, and also issues with substance abuse. I mean, it's just like it's like the valley of that most biopics do, and then just none of the mountaintops.
Yeah, and like that's a surprise because Marilyn Monroe like is the freaking mountaintop. Like she is the thing people aspired to be back in the day. In fact, characters in the film comment on this. She'll express some struggle or something to somebody in the movie, a helping hand, a waiter, hairdresser, husband maybe, and every one of them will be like, Norma Jean, everybody wants to be you. Everybody wants to be you. Like what problems could you possibly have? Which just like leads you further into this feeling of despair that she can't get out of this like situation. It leaves on the table like the idea that Marilyn Monroe like made like $200 million in 23 movies and was like a sex icon and was like part of the reason Playboy took off. Marilyn Monroe was the cover of the first Playboy ever. Huge. Like that whole brand may not exist without her. She started her own production company in a time when women were not making production companies. Huge strides. Like she was an avid reader. She gave speeches like before her untimely death at the age of 36. Yeah.
But you wouldn't know you wouldn't know it from this movie.
None of that's in this movie. Like instead, this movie starts with Norma coming from a broken home, and having a mom who's not doing well and a dad who's never around, and like just kind of drifting from event to event. In fact, Andrew Dominik said, he said the script contains little dialogue and the film is an avalanche of images and events that I would agree with. He also stated that the movie will offend everyone and that he's not concerned with being tasteful. The question I have is, what are you doing when you make a movie like that? Like, it's just kind of a beating for a couple hours.
The thing is, this movie kind of works with a number of caveats, which isn't really acceptable. If a movie is called Blonde and it's about Marilyn Monroe, you can't tell people, well, you got to think of it not being around her, because it does work that way. If this was just about an actress, not Marilyn Monroe, it could definitely work about like the abuse in Hollywood, the pressure, the pressure of fame, what fame really does to a person. Like these are some interesting ideas that are definitely worth exploring. Just with someone else, anybody else, please.
Yeah, I was reminded of interestingly enough, Black Swan, the Natalie Portman film. Yeah. Natalie Portman in that movie like is struggling with all kinds of problems, like with her position, her ability, the audience, like the voyeurism of the performance of her her role in the ballet as the Black Swan in Swan Lake. But she's also like an incredibly accomplished individual, and she's operating at the highest possible level of dance you can operate at, and everybody is on like a high wire act because it's so important, and the art and the craft is so meaningful to her. That's part of the reason there's so much stress. Blonde does not explore that. Like Blonde instead almost sees like these films happening to Marilyn as like, I don't know, luck. Like she just lucks into it, and it's just like good fortune, and it leaves out like any kind of intelligence or real character to her, to create this kind of version of Norma Jean who is just like, I don't know, a wistful victim all the time. And like I know this woman had problems, but like it genuinely, I think the reason people say it's cruel is because it feels cruel to like what Marilyn Monroe was like. Looking at her life, it's just like, God, this movie's kind of mean. Like it just kind of punches down on her for 2 hours, you know, like she's the issue, she's the problem. It's a bummer.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough. It's really rough, and it just seems like the whole thing is negative. That being said, I do want to talk about some of the stuff that I think does work pretty well. It's an incredibly artistic film. Like this is probably one of the most artistic films I've seen this year. The cinematography is incredible. It's shot in a different ratio. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's not the usual 9:16. That standard screen size. It's a little bit shorter than that, and the screen ratio changes. Is we get just a few film sequences where the entire screen is taken up, most notably in the middle of the film when we get the famous shot of Marilyn Monroe over the grate with her white dress holding it down, like the incredibly iconic famous shot. That's one of the few times we have a full screen, and like the music's going and there's some slow-mo and there's flashes of light. Like the cinematography is really top notch and really kind of helps tell the story. And along with the score by, I can't remember, Warren Ellis and Nick Cave. The score works really well too. Actually, I'm going to add it to our long running playlist of film scores. It's incredibly artistic the way it's kind of telling these stories, and that part did work for me.
Yeah, I should say I really like how this movie's made, and that was a weird thing of the criticism that I heard. People, kind of film critics that I pay attention to, would say like it's a mean movie, it's mean spirited, but man, it's well put together. It's a good movie, like it's well made for what it is. Yeah, Dominik has no problem jumping between black and white and color aspect ratios. This is something I've noticed in like Wes Anderson movies. Most recently, Grand Budapest Hotel jumps around a bit. I think French Dispatch does the same thing. This makes those movies look like child's play, the way it jumps around between black and white and color, between aspect ratio. There's a couple scenes where the aspect ratio will shift while you're watching it. It will shift from widescreen to square to close in on Marilyn during like a stressful moment, induce claustrophobia for the viewer. There's other scenes that will bounce regularly between black and white and color. I'm sure there's a theme to it. I could not identify it in 2 hours. At first, I thought maybe it's only black and white when she feels like Norma Jean, and maybe it's color when she's like Marilyn, but I'm not even sure I'm genuinely not even sure that comes through. There's certain scenes where I couldn't get a read on it. So Dominik is very bent on using a lens that's like very voyeuristic. He's got everything locked on a tripod, and he's constantly following Marilyn in every scene. She's in every scene, I think. Like it's constantly about her. But like you said, there's not that much dialogue, and it genuinely is images and events. Like it's mostly just like a showcase of this like 36-year span of her life, leading ultimately to an untimely demise. And it's not, it's a rough, it's a rough ride. I couldn't do it all in one. I wish I could, but I don't know.
That also brings me to Ana de Armas' performance as Marilyn Monroe. She carries this film on her back. Like she carries the whole team on her back.
She really does. Yeah.
She's almost in every scene. And like I said, this is a brutal film where again, it's a lot of abuse a lot of the time. And I swear she's like in tears half the movie easily. And she nails the look. I was a little suspicious about whether or not she'd be able to cover up her accent, because Ana de Armas is Cuban. She has a pretty strong Spanish accent, but she hides it really, really well. You can't hardly tell, but she nails the look. She's got the breathy speech. And I mean, she's acting her face off completely. I wonder if she'll be recognized by the Academy. It definitely deserves to be recognized, but it's also such a brutal film, and Hollywood doesn't like, a negative take on one of their biggest stars of all time. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Academy reacts to it, if at all.
Yeah, Hollywood also doesn't love NC-17. That's traditionally a problem.
Oh yeah, that too.
Fortunately, this is distributed on Netflix. Yeah, Ana de Armas is great in this movie. This might be like top 3 all time for her performances. She's so good. She's so good, dude. Like she goes deep every time on the emotion. Like Marilyn Monroe is this like larger than life icon, and Norma Jean is just this paper thin shell of a person. And her trying to walk this tightrope between the two, leading to like really shaky like performances at the end. I mean, you see it in the teaser trailer where she's like looking in the mirror, like begging Marilyn to come out, like please, just one more time, like she's trying to summon a genie. Like it's fascinating, and it kills me that in 2021, when this film ran for test screenings, people complained about her accent. They were like, she sounds too Cuban. She worked on her accent for 9 months trying to get the voice down for this movie, like to get it right. And people still complain. Andrew Dominik said they did post-production work after the fact to tweak her vocals to make her sound more American. I didn't hate the accent at all, and I'll tell you why. It's because this movie is not quite a representation of Marilyn Monroe's life. It's different. It's a twist. And like what I like about that is the Armas manages to embody this character of like a young up and coming starlet who doesn't quite have the confidence to get over the top with this kind of thin, wavery voice. She gets it so good because it feels like a little bit of a reflection of her own career. Like when they were shooting this movie in 2019 and they were working up to it, and she was like becoming this character and really trying to lean in, but still unsure of herself. Like that fits so good with Norma Jean. It's like Michael Keaton playing Birdman. Like you managed to cast somebody who not only can get the look, especially when she's wearing the makeup. Oh my God. You put the mark on her cheek, and you give her the eyeshadow. Like she looks like Marilyn Monroe. But like I think she is great. I think she is so good. And yeah, I hope she gets some notoriety for this one, because she's really good in it. It's one of my favorite performances from her. The movie also features Bobby Cannavale as Joe DiMaggio, who she was married to for a while, the baseball player. Also
Arthur Miller.
Adrian Brody is Arthur Miller. Yes, the playwright and poet, who she was also married to for a little while. Other than that, I don't know if there's any actors and actresses worth mentioning. Those are the two real big ones. There's some other people who are fine, but nobody who's done no real notable names, I don't think.
Yeah, there are some other stars in this, but besides her, but she's definitely doing the legwork. For sure. And like I said, it jumps through most of her relationships, and unfortunately it's defined largely by them. Like she's not Marilyn Monroe, she's so-and-so's wife, so-and-so's girlfriend. Which is again, it's sort of a biopic, not really. but it's just hard to market it. Like, how do you market that? Like, it's called Blonde. It's about Marilyn Monroe, but it's not. You're like, it's not really. It's historical fiction. It's not real life, and that's just confusing to people. And if you have to tell people a bunch of caveats in order to enjoy the movie or to watch the movie, like you've kind of done something wrong. Or you just got to figure out a better way to market it.
Yeah, it's a shame. I think this movie has a lot going against it. Not only is it got some harsh reviews from people who are like, this movie's really mean, which myself included. It's also, again, NC-17. IMDb says this is the first American NC-17 film in like nearly a decade. Like, there's not actually been a formally released film with that rating outside of this one since, like, I don't know, 2014 or something. That hurts it. They were reportedly surprised when that rating came out. Anna de Armas said, like, she said, I can point out more movies or TV shows that have more sexual content than this movie. You're gonna have to watch it and find out for yourself, but big content warning on that side. There are some sexual scenes. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I have much more to say, honestly. Like, I feel like I've aired my laundry about it. I don't know. I'm split on Blonde. I don't like the representation of Marilyn Monroe, but I also like Anna de Armas in the character she's playing here. Like, in that way, like, I think this movie does a poor job of being a Marilyn Monroe movie, but it is kind of cool for what it is. It's something different,
It almost needed to be more fiction in this historical fiction. Like, you could have had her, but she's Norma Jean, a blonde actress going through, who's like, she's basically Marilyn Monroe, but you're not going to call her that. You're not going to say she's that. Like, it's going to be, because you got to get people to think that this is not like a biopic, because it's just brutal if you think of it that way.
Yeah, it really is. Any other thoughts on this for recommendations?
I think I'm ready.
Andy, would you recommend Blonde?
That's a tough one. I would recommend it only to the staunchest fans of bold cinema. You just have to go into it knowing a number of things. First of all, it's nearly 3 hours long, and I think this would actually work better on the big screen. It reminds you a little bit of Elvis. Like, if you're going to sit there for 3 hours, it kind of needs to be seen on the big screen, and the cinematography lends itself to that. It is a brutal film. Again, lots of content warning. There's lots of sexual content. There's sexual assault. There's substance abuse. There's domestic abuse. There's just a lot. It's kind of a beatdown, and I don't really know who to recommend that to. Really, that's one of the tough ones. But if you're interested, if you're a fan of Marilyn Monroe, if you're a big fan of hers, probably would enjoy just seeing what it's all about. But just go in there knowing that it's not the typical biopic.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think watch it in parts if you're gonna watch it. I just kind of in the nature of what it is. It doesn't have a very coherent, like, captivating script all the way through. Like, it is pretty minimalist, and while the images and kind of the tone coming out of it's good, it makes for a tough watch at over 2 hours. That being said, I didn't dislike it. It's just, I don't know. It's a tough one to try to recommend. But I think it's, for Andrew Dominik, I think it's good work. Like, I really do. I think Anna de Armas really shines in it, and it's a bummer that she probably won't get more notoriety for it. But I don't know. That's Blonde. I think that's our show for the week. Andy, what are we watching next week?
At long last, Black Adam.
Oh, man.
The DC superhero picture starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in his superhero debut, the long-awaited film Black Adam, also starring Pierce Brosnan and others as the Justice Society of America. That's the only film we're going to be taking on so far. We're going to see if there's anything on streaming or anything maybe horror-wise that piques our interest. Otherwise, we're just going to focus on that, and I won't have to hopefully watch that stupid trailer. I've been watching it for 6 months for Black Adam. I can't wait till it's out.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see if he's a hero or if he hurts people. We're going to find out when we see Black Adam. Excited for Black Adam. I hope it's good stuff. I'd like to watch something a little, I don't know, spooky or offbeat. It's October. but something we can watch at home. I don't want to go to theaters twice this week. If you enjoyed our show today, I got to do the standard plug stuff. You can find us on Facebook where we live stream the show every Tuesday at about 4:30, 4:45, maybe 5 p.m. You can follow us on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. We upload our live streams to YouTube where you can follow us there as well. Our audio version of the show is on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartMedia, you name it. We're probably on there. And if you like the show and you like what we're doing, you can write in and tell us things you think we should watch, or share your hot takes on Blonde or Halloween Ends. Whatever you've got on your mind, you can mail us at, you can write into our mail at offscriptfilmreview.com. You can check out our website, offscriptfilmreview.com. The biggest thing you can do to help the show, feel like what we're doing here, you can drop a tip in our proverbial tip jar, is just subscribe to the show. Subscribe on YouTube or Facebook. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter. Subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, wherever you're at. Just drop us that one little subscription, maybe two if you can swing it. Follow us, all that stuff. Throw a like on it, a heart, if you will, and maybe leave a comment. Let us know what you thought of the show. Give us some feedback. If it's good stuff, hey, we'll read it on the air. Get live correspondence. You too can be a part of Offscript Film Review. I think that about wraps everything from all of us at Offscript, the home of Bold Cinema. I'm Zach Lewis,
and I'm Dr. Draper.
Thanks for watching.